Okay, recording's in progress. So good to see everybody here. Thank you so much for coming to our debut of Pulling Back the Curtain. We are absolutely thrilled to have you. Just to introduce ourselves, I am going to read Susan's bio because it's embarrassing to read your own bio, and then Susan will read mine. So, award-winning author Susan Carlisle's love affair with books began when she made a bad grade in math in the 6th grade. Not allowed to watch TV until she brought the grade up, Susan filled her time with books. Much better use of time. She turned her love of reading into a love of writing. Susan has released through HarperCollins's Harlequin medical imprint over 30 contemporary romances. Her modern Masters of Their Castles trilogy is under her own imprint. Her steamy stories have strong heroes with vibrant women who challenge them. Her traditionally published nonfiction book, Nick's New Heart, 30 Years and Counting, came out in March 2021 under the author name Susan May. It is about her son's heart transplant experience. The second, a historical biography, a World War II flight surgeon's story, was released by Pelican Publishing under the name S. Carlisle May. Okay.
Yeah, and y'all know too much about me now. And Nancy Harkness is the award-winning, best-selling author of the Royal Kalava Consultants, the Wager of Hearts and Whisper Horse series, as well as several other contemporary romance novels. She is a two-time nominee for the Romance Writers of America's Reader Award. Nancy has received many honors for her work, including the Book Buyer's Best Top Pick, the New England Reader's Choice Award, and the National Excellence of Romance Fiction Award. She's a graduate from Princeton University with a degree in English literature and creative writing. A native of West Virginia, Nancy now lives 12 miles west of the Lincoln Tunnel in suburban New Jersey with 2 tabby cats. And she is far too smart for me to be talking to with a Princeton degree.
Yeah, that was a very long time ago. And just so you know, I wrote poetry back then. That was my creative writing. I'm a poet by academic training. Who'd have thunk? So maybe you guys are wondering why we're doing this on the third Tuesday of every month. So tell them, Susan, why are we doing this?
Nancy and I met at the Moonlighting Magnolias Conference in Georgia. But we met because Nancy and I were competing against each other for an award. And I read everybody that I'm competing against just because they're quality books and you kind of want to know what your competition is. Well, I read Nancy's book and I said, and this is a winner. And I told her before she beat me out of a Maggie. But she went up and she took it, but we became fast friends after that. And we are, we kind of live in 2 different worlds, but we really enjoy each other and appreciate each other's writing. So we said, wouldn't we make a good, show to get together and talk about books and writing and what we do. So that's how it came about.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about our lives both as writers and as human beings. So we decided to call it Pulling Back the Curtain after the scene in The Wizard of Oz where Toto, pulls back the curtain as the wizard's working all his levers because, writers are kind of what they do. People often think is kind of magic, and we kind of wanted to show you what's really going on behind the scenes. Although I still think it's a little bit magic. So this is us showing you behind the curtain.
We also want to give away, do a book giveaway based on trivia questions that we asked during the show. And we're offering this access only to members of our newsletters. So don't share this link with anybody. We're going to put it on YouTube and places like that, but we prefer for you not to go out and put it on Facebook because that guy in prison might come and try to talk to us. You know?
Wait, you
So,
know a guy in prison who wants to talk to you, Susan?
I do not, but I have heard
Good.
of it happening.
You
I have
scared
heard of
me.
it happening.
Scared me
Yeah.
for a minute there. So,
Yeah. I would be the one that would get the guy from prison. I can tell you.
so what we wanted to do it on Zoom because we wanted to talk to you guys instead of, on I do a live on Facebook, but you can't talk back. So, you guys have anything you want to ask us or that you want to say?
I want to know about eventually, sometime.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
When you press it, it turns on. When you press play.
So have you gotten prison mail?
No, but I do know of somebody that did. And the guy actually came to somebody's house. Yeah.
Yikes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
terrifying.
So you don't ever know what crazy person will come along. So and we want it to be just exclusive. It's nice for people that read our material that we give something back. So and this is what we're trying to do. So
So other questions? No?
You're going to put a poet in your book, Nancy?
Poets are generally not billionaires, poetry doesn't pay well. That's one of the reasons
The
I don't like
billionaire that
poetry.
writes poetry.
I guess he could, I suppose. Again, that was a long time ago. I haven't written poetry in decades. So, yeah. So, no other questions for now? Don't worry, you can ask them anytime. So, Susan, why don't you share book news with us? What's going on in your book world?
All right. On the 23rd of this month, my first book in the it is called the Derby Docs or the Derby Medics. That's what it is. And this is falling for the trauma doc. So it will be coming out soon. And there is a link in the chat if you want to pre-order. And I'm really tickled with this book. And because I went to the Kentucky Derby and I went with the intention of writing a Derby book. So I'm real proud of this. And they actually gave me a really good looking guy. So I was proud of that. How about you, Nancy? What you got going on?
Well, I just sent Royal Caleva Luis, cover right there, off to my copy editor. I'm trying to remember which edit I'm in at this point. Went through developmental edits. So now it's off to copy edits, which is always nice because it's on her desk and not mine. But it is up for pre-order. It comes out June 25th, but you can pre-order it and the link is in the chat somewhere. And just to I don't know if everybody here knows this, but when I release a book, I always make a donation to an animal rescue organization or two. And I will be doing that again with Royal Caleva Luis, which is the second book in the Royal Caleva series. The first book is Royal Caleva Gabrielle, which is up on the shelf back there.
And it's worth reading. I read it.
Oh, thank you. And it will, and the Royal Caleva Luis will be available once it's released in print, audio, and on Kindle. So, Susan, what book are you working on now?
I have just finished up the second one that goes with this, and I'm looking for my payday on that one. And then I'm writing, the next one takes place in Iceland and is a little bitty tiny town in Iceland. And it kind of has some of my heritage in it because this particular person is looking for she was adopted and she's looking for her background, and she's studying a very small population of Nordic diseases, and she has it, so she knows that she belongs to the people from that area. So I'm my great granddaddy was Norwegian, and I have the same disease, and so does my son. So it doesn't really affect us, but only Nordic people have it. So
fascinating. I had no idea. So have you been to Iceland, I assume?
I have. I took a cruise around Iceland and it was beautiful. And very few people realize that Iceland actually is green and Greenland is icy.
That's right.
So, and it was really green, but that a few people also know that Iceland has very few trees. They were cut down to build houses and keep people and build fires to keep people warm. And they are trying to do reforestation in Iceland. And my daddy is a forester, so I was particularly interested in that aspect of Iceland. So, but we enjoyed our trip. We did.
Fabulous. And I hope that this little town you're writing about is nowhere near that volcano that is obliterating towns.
It's north of it, but the volcano is really kind of in the center of the island, so to speak. But you've had a big trip recently. Tell us where you've been.
Oh, right. Well, I went to Panama and I went through the Panama Canal. I just want to stop for a minute to say, hi, Shirley. Good to see you. We have another person
For a
here.
long time.
Yeah. So I was
We
just,
better stop and say, tell them what we want them to do.
and
for-
Kara Carson's here too. Yeah, just wanted to let you know we are recording this. So if you don't want your name or your face on it, just change that. So I went through the Panama Canal because I've always wanted to do that. My grandfather, when he was a young Army officer, was stationed in Panama while they were building the canal, because they were building the canal, in fact. And then my father took his destroyer through the Panama Canal during World War II a couple of times when he had to move between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. And then I found out my daughter lives in Pittsburgh now. The gates, the huge steel gates, which are still the original gates that they built the canal with over 100 years ago, they were made in Pittsburgh. So I have all these family connections. And I also am just frankly fascinated with large engineering projects. And the Panama Canal was certainly a very large engineering project. And one of the sort of fascinating things about it is it's very utilitarian. There's no giant sign that says, welcome to the Panama Canal, woohoo. You're just go, there are all these ships waiting, and when it's your turn, you go. And you go through, we went through the old locks. So there are the original old locks are side by side, 2 locks side by side. And then Panama has built new, larger locks, but they're a little farther away. Our ship was relatively small, cruise ship, only 500 feet long. The locks are 1,000 feet long. So we went through with 2 other little boats, a motor yacht and a sailboat, went through in the same locks as we did. But in the locks beside us, these giant container ships were going through, and they're just wall to wall in the locks. There's like no room. And you can see all the paint scrapes on the side of the locks where the ships have scraped along. So it was fascinating, just fascinating. And I got a very cool pin, and I hope you can see it, that says Order of the Ditch, because I transited the Panama Canal. So that's my Order of the Ditch. And then it actually only takes about 9 hours to go through the Panama Canal, and the cruise was a week long. So obviously we had to do other things to entertain us. So we did sort of poke around Panama and Cartagena in Colombia. But in Panama, there's an indigenous people called the Guna, and the women make these beautiful molas, which are hand sewn with multiple layers of cloth. I don't know if you can see all the layers here. Mine is not an expensive one. It's just a tourist mola, but I just thought they were beautiful. And we went to this island called Isla Aroma, where the Guna live, and they just had clothesline after clothesline after clothesline hung with all of these molas. I mean, there must have been thousands of them. And of course, I was in hog heaven trying to decide which ones to buy. And this is the one I brought home for myself, but I brought home gifts too. So Panama was pretty cool. I just want to see what people are saying, because Kara says, I actually guarded the Panama Canal when I was an MP in the US Army just after Operation Just Cause in 1990-ish. It was still a US controlled canal then, right? Because they handed it over in 1999, 2000. Oh, wow, Kara, that's cool.
That is Kara. That is cool.
Can you tell us more about that? How did you guard it exactly? It's kind of big. Nope. Caro, there she is.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
I'm being camera shy today, but
that's fine.
no, I was loving your pictures on Facebook when you went through the canal. So it was the US just controlled the whole canal, and so they rotated MP companies down there because the military police, which sounds like we're nice and official and not aggressive, were actually more heavily armed than an infantry platoon. So
Wow.
because we have to be able to hold down the rear echelon, and if the enemy arrives, so that the infantry can turn around and come back. But that's neither here nor there. So what they would do is they would ship the MPs down there, a battalion at a time, and if they shipped you for 180 days, it counted as a permanent change of station, and they had to pay you extra money, and they had to like bring your home goods, and your family should be able to come. And so what it was the MPs were on a 179-day rotation. And so if you were
Wow.
an MP, you were going to get down there for 179 days sooner or later. That was just like part of being an MP at the time. So,
That was just sneaky. But so where were you actually stationed? Like along the canal or like in Panama City?
no, there was an Army base and there was an Air Force base too. And
Really?
the fun part of being an MP, of course, was especially because I was the officer, so I could just get in my patrol car and go where I wanted. And the Air Force base had much better food. So on duty, we would drive over to the Air Force base and eat in their mess hall. It was much better.
Well, don't they always say an army marches on its stomach or something like
That's
that?
right.
So,
And
yes, the Air
we sure
Force
did.
does too, huh? Oh,
But it
that's
was just
really
after,
cool.
yeah, it was just after Just Cause, and so we had bullet holes in the barracks and things like that. But yeah, it was fun. Join the Army, see the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
actually-
were you there during the rainy season or the hot season or both?
I was there in the summer. Is it always rainy and hot down there?
Well, the rainy season's more in the winter, so
Oh, okay.
So
It
you
was
hit-
it
you
was
hit the
very
hot-
jungly.
yeah, it's hot. Wow.
I
Cartagena.
remember being so excited seeing like a toucan fly across the road, like
Right?
Fruit Loops toucan. I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. I'm in the jungle.
It is. Oh, well, that's wonderful.
It's really cool.
Has anyone else been through the Panama Canal or to Iceland? Karen, which one?
Well, I was actually on the ground as a tourist instead of on a ship. And so there is a museum on the ground where you can see some films, and we took some tours and saw some of the barracks where the people who built the canal, and some of the huge cemeteries where people died of diseases and accidents from trying to build the canal, because they made several starts at it before they were successful. So it was really interesting because most Americans see it from the ship instead of from the ground. And we also took some tours where a lot of the islands were cut off when the water came through. So there are animals on some of the islands that don't appear anyplace else.
So that
And
must
so
have
we
been,
actually got onto some of those islands and saw
Oh.
some of the communication towers from the war, and some of the animals that nobody generally sees. So that was a really different perspective of it. And it was just before the canal was turned back over to Panama.
oh, that sounds fabulous. So were the
It's
islands
very
in Lake Gatun then? Or
So what was the question?
were the islands that you saw, were they in Lake Gatun or were they in the other smaller lake that I can't think of the name of now?
No, the big one.
Big one.
Yeah,
So
I
Gatun.
forget what the name of it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the new one, the one that was man-made.
The
Yeah.
one that was man-made, because it cut off a lot of the land in between. And so it made actually man-made islands.
Very cool.
It
Yeah,
really was.
I'd like to see it from the ground too. Now that I've been through on a ship, that would be fascinating.
Yeah, it's very different from what most Americans see of it.
We were talking about it, and when I was in school, how I studied about malaria and about how they had come up with, it becoming from the mosquitoes and that sort of stuff. And it's cool. I haven't been, but I am going. and how cool that is. You know, things that you study in school and you think, oh, I'll never use that, or I'll never go there. And then you end up going and you think, man, I studied about, what did I study about with that? You know, and it amazing how it comes back to you, and that your interest is pricked from doing that. Yeah.
It's true. So,
Um,
okay, so, oh, you know, one thing I forgot to do was tell you why I'm wearing a crazy tiara. So we know why Susan's wearing her hat, but I have if you can see the dragon on my tiara. So it's Royal Caleva, which is crowns, obviously. And the royal family's surname is dragon in Spanish. So hence the dragon on my tiara. So speaking of which, it's time to play book trivia. So you can win a book from both of us. You can find the answers to our questions on our websites, which are in the chat, nancyherkness.com and susancarlisle.com. And just when you find the answer, type it into the chat and make sure you add your email so that we can contact you to let you know you won, so we can mail you your autographed book. So Susan, why don't you, we'll draw one winner for each question. So Susan, you go first with your question.
Okay, the book that I'm giving away is actually a 3-in-1, and this has got Rachel Lee, me, and Elizabeth Helter. So it's a big chunky thing. But what is the title of the book with a hot air balloon on it? And that is my question from my website.
Okay, so again, make sure you type the answer in and your email address.
All right, Nancy, your turn.
The book I'm giving away is Royal Caleva Gabrielle, the first book in the series. And the question is, what did they hire Quinn Pearson to do? What did they hire Quinn Pearson to do? Again, make sure you put your email in there. Okay, so Susan, you're a big fan
I've
of
been waiting on this part, y'all. This is my part here. The Kentucky Derby is the first weekend in May, so that's coming up in a couple of weekends. And Nancy and I decided that we were going to bet on the horses. So at the time, I looked this up. Now the horses kind of come and go in who is going to be running. So currently we have, I think it was a group of 20, which I put them over here on Nancy's bio. But just to give you an idea of some of the names, Resistance, Forever Young, Track Phenomenon, West Saratoga, Honor Marie, and Deterministic and Society Man. But I took Fierceness, and what did you take, Nancy?
I hope he's still in the field. Stronghold? Is he still?
Stronghold, yeah.
Oh, good. Phew.
Yeah.
Evidently,
Yeah.
he's been winning recently, so I thought, oh, good, he's on a streak, so I'm going to go for him, even though he's not the top favorite. I think your person is the top. Your horse.
I think, well, I actually look at the jockeys, and I recognize the jockey name.
Oh.
So I'm a big horse racing fan. I'm not a big horse racing bettor, but I am a big racing fan. I love the horse races, and a friend of mine, she said, I said, I've been wanting to go to the Kentucky Derby. She said, well, I need to go too. And we just loaded ourselves up and got us some outfits and some hats and went and got amongst the people. And I'm talking about people, y'all, lots and lots and lots of people. But, and this is the hat I wore on Derby Day. I had on Friday, they run the Oaks race, which is for the 3-year-old fillies. And so everybody wears pink, including the men wear pink suits. And some of them are a little more bizarre than I appreciated. But anyway, so that was my big thing, was the to go to the Kentucky Derby. And each year on Derby Saturday, I cook I put out my best tablecloth and pull out my silver and my best china. And I make hot brown sandwiches and Kentucky Derby pie and even have mint juleps. And I am gonna tell this quick story. I looked for mint julep cups everywhere around Louisville, Kentucky. My husband, he was patient. We went to every place that we thought would have them, and I could not find them that were even. If I did find them, but they were not reasonable, like they were $150 for a cup. I was coming home from Orlando. We stopped in a Walmart, and would you believe there sat Kentucky Derby cups and or mint julep cups. So I bought all they had. So anyway, and they were very reasonable. So I even have the mint julep cups and I invite not my grandchildren for the mint juleps, but my grandkids to come and watch the Kentucky Derby with me. So I make a big deal out of it each year. So
It sounds like so much fun. So what are we going to bet? Should we bet a mint julep at whatever the next conference we're together at? Does that sound like a good bet?
that sounds like a plan to me.
Okay, we'll do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to close the recorded part and then open it up so we can all chat again because it's fun to chat. So we're going to pull the curtain back, closed, and I'm going to try and turn off the recording. So we're going to wave goodbye for the recording. And don't go away though.